The massive observatory dome atop Mount Vellecta shimmered under the three moons of Nereus Prime. Inside, Chief Scientist Tarn hunched over holographic displays, his four eyes widening simultaneously as data streamed in from Earth's direction. "This can't be right," he muttered, his gray skin paling further. "Run the analysis again." His assistant, Mika, tapped rapidly on the floating interface. "Analysis confirms, sir. The energy signatures are unmistakable. The humans have achieved molecular manipulation at scale." Tarn slumped into his hover chair. "Prepare an emergency transmission to the High Council. Classification: Danger Level 15. Across the galaxy, the Galactic Survey Assessment Council received Tarn's message with skepticism. The circular chamber filled with representatives from 17 spacefaring civilizations buzzed with disbelief. "Level 15? Preposterous," scoffed Counselor Drav, his tentacles writhing anxiously despite his dismissive tone. "Humans are barely 1,000 years into their technological age." High Leader Pan rose from her crystalline seat, silencing the chamber. "We have underestimated them before. Remember the atomic energy projections? We gave them centuries. They did it in decades." Still, interjected Ambassador Lox from the methane-breathing Gessarians, "Nanotechnology at this scale requires—" "What it requires," interrupted Tarn, now addressing the Council via hologram, "is exactly what humans possess: desperate innovation and reckless persistence." On Earth, blissfully unaware of the interstellar anxiety they were causing, Dr. Thomas Reed and his team celebrated in their underground laboratory. The surrounding screens displayed microscopic robots rebuilding damaged tissue in real time. "It works," whispered Dr. Lily Blackwell, tears streaming down her face as she watched cancer cells being systematically eliminated by the nanobots. 10 years of work, and it finally works." Thomas nodded, too overwhelmed to speak. What had begun as a desperate attempt to save his daughter from an aggressive genetic disorder had evolved into something far beyond medical application. Their nanites could now self-replicate, repair almost any material, and even construct complex structures from raw elements. "The industrial applications alone will revolutionize manufacturing," said Dr. Alex Morgan, the team's engineer. "Not to mention environmental remediation. We could clean the oceans in a decade." None of them realized that their breakthrough had triggered urgent protocols across the stars. Back on Nereus Prime, Tarn presented his findings to the High Council. "The humans have developed nanites that can restructure matter at the atomic level," he explained, showing intercepted transmissions from Earth's scientific networks. "Their initial application appears medical, but military adaptation is inevitable. By our estimates, they could develop weaponized swarms within 5 planetary cycles." "What precisely elevates this to level 15? Asked Counselor Vex, who had always considered humans a curiosity rather than a threat. Tarn's expression darkened. "Their nanites are built with redundant failsafes and distributed intelligence. Unlike our attempts, which require centralized control, human nanites operate with remarkable autonomy while maintaining collective purpose." The silence that followed was deafening. "We must intervene," declared Ambassador Zgol of the ancient Meraki Confederacy, "as we have with other species approaching dangerous technological thresholds." High Leader Pan raised a 6-fingered hand. "Intervention has historically proven problematic with humans." Indeed, the Council's records documented 3 previous attempts to subtly nudge human development away from potentially catastrophic technologies. Each attempt had backfired spectacularly, somehow accelerating the very innovations they sought to prevent. "There is another option," Tarn suggested hesitantly. "Contact." The Council chamber erupted in objections. "First contact protocols require centuries of observation," shouted one representative. "Humans aren't psychologically prepared," argued another. Hans silenced them again. "We have observed them for millennia. They have imagined us in their literature, prepared for us in their governments. Perhaps it's time." Meanwhile, on Earth, the breakthrough faced its first crisis. During a controlled demonstration for potential investors, a containment field fluctuated, allowing a small cluster of nanites to escape. "Lock down the facility," Thomas ordered, his voice steady despite his racing heart. Security protocols initiated automatically, sealing the laboratory. Lily tracked the escaped nanites on her tablet. They're in the ventilation system, heading for the surface. For 12 tense hours, the team worked frantically to recover the escaped technology. When they'd finally succeeded, Thomas made a difficult decision. "We need to implement the Kittle switch globally," he announced to his team. "Every nanite must have a remote deactivation capability before we proceed further." "That will set us back months," Alex objected. "Better months than risking what these could do in the wrong hands," Thomas countered. "Or worse, if they evolved beyond our control." Unknown to them, this conversation was being monitored by council observers. It changed everything. 3 days later, as Thomas worked late in his office, the air before him shimmered. He looked up from his computer to find a translucent being hovering inches above his desk. Dr. Thomas Reed, the being spoke, its voice resonating directly in his mind. "I am emissary Nal of the Galactic Council. Your species' work with nanotechnology has gained our attention." Thomas sat perfectly still, his scientific mind rapidly cycling through explanations before accepting the impossible truth before him. "Are we in trouble?" he asked simply. The alien made a sound that might have been laughter. "Quite the opposite. Your ethical constraints and safety protocols exceed those of civilizations thousands of years your senior." Over the next hour, Thomas learned that humanity's approach to nanotechnology, building in limitations from the start, rather than after disaster, had impressed the Council enough to accelerate first contact protocols. "We have technologies to share," Dr. Reed, "and much to learn from each other," Nal explained. "Your species combines innovation with caution in ways we find refreshing." Within weeks, Earth's governments were negotiating humanity's entry into galactic society, with Thomas and his team serving as scientific liaisons. And in a distant council chamber, Tarn addressed his peers one final time on the matter. "Perhaps we should revisit our danger classification system," he suggested. "What we perceived as threat level 15 might instead be opportunity level 15. The humans don't just master technologies, they master themselves in the process." High Leader Pond nodded in agreement. "In 3 million cycles of galactic oversight, we have never encountered a species that developed the means to destroy themselves so many times, yet consistently chose not to." As the council adjourned, a new classification was added to their ancient records: human ingenuity, approach with wonder.